Welcome to America 2112. This is a channel where we talk about ideas and policies that will move our country forward and lead to a stronger and better future. And what I want to talk about here is what this YouTube channel is all about. And first I'll state that we stand at a time in history in which politics has gotten incredibly divisive between the left and the right. And in the view of many, our politics has become severely unhinged. We've just elected a severely malignant narcissist president who favors some very far right-wing policies, who has taken some actions that are very authoritarian and very in line with increasing his own political power in a way that does not benefit, in the view of most Americans, and has pushed for policies that are quite extreme. A tax and budget bill that redistributes most of the money to the top 1% and takes away from programs and safety social net programs that benefit the vast majority of Americans in order to provide gigantic tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires in the top 1%. So it is clear that those policies are out of step with what many of us believe in, and it is clear that those policies are leading the country into a different direction. Just recently in the news, we've seen Jimmy Kimmel being fired after being pressured by the chairman of the FCC that Donald Trump appointed, who in a very mob-like fashion said that the firing needed to be done and we could do this, quote, the easy way or the hard way, and it resulted in ABC, and I understand this asserted that it's been reversed, but it had resulted in Jimmy Kimmel, the late night comedian, being fired by ABC because he made some comments that were, let's just say, mildly critical of Donald Trump, and from what I heard of those comments, they were spot on correct. But anyway, we see a number of things like that happen. We see the crackdowns against universities and law firms that don't toe the party line in favor of Donald Trump. You know, these are very authoritarian kinds of actions that you would expect someone who wants to be an authoritarian leader to take, not someone who is an elected leader respecting the rights of the people in a constitutional republic, which is what we are supposed to be. So there's a lot to talk about with the way current politics is going, in the place in current history where we stand right now with the extreme MAGA Republicans that control this country, both houses of Congress and the presidency in the form of Donald Trump, and in many of the state legislatures and state governorships, and the kinds of politics that they're pursuing. And we see the scapegoating of immigrants and trans people and LGBTQ people that is being done by the far right, which obviously many of us don't believe that is good for the country or good for society, in order to pursue those policies in this very extreme hard right immigration policy, where not only illegal immigrants who have committed crimes, but illegal immigrants who have not committed crimes, as well as many legal immigrants who have not committed any crimes, are being rounded up without due process and scapegoated and being put in these concentration camp style prisons like so-called alligator Alcatraz that the regime is building. I mean, these are the actions of a very authoritarian regime, not one that respects having a government of a constitutional republic where the rights of the people and due process and the rule of law are all upheld and respected. You know, these are very extreme authoritarian kinds of policies and actions that we're seeing, and these are some of the things that I will be talking about on this channel. But everything here won't just simply be what's wrong with current policy or the regime of the Republican Party, or in many cases the Democratic Party is often wrong on a lot of issues as well. I will be spending a lot of time talking about policy and ideas and pursuit of those policies and ideas that will move our country forward, that would make our country a better place, that would build an economy that works for most people and not just disproportionately for the top 1% of the ultra wealthy, but building an economy that works for most people. Those would be ideas that I will talk about on this channel. I'll talk about ideas of why certain policies that I consider to be socially libertarian are a better approach for a country of 340 million people that disagree on a number of issues. Now, when I say socially libertarian, it's kind of the opposite of what one would consider, quote, socially conservative. And socially conservative views take many forms, from those who just think their own personal morality is better than that of others and want to enact it into state or federal law and want to use the public policy process to enact laws that tell other people how to live their personal lives. Social libertarianism can be various forms of Christian nationalism or ultra-conservative kinds of political points of view based on a variety of things. And you will find, as I delve into these issues here on the channel, I don't agree with a lot of that. And now I want to speak a bit about me as the messenger for delivering this kind of message that I'm talking about. And one could say that either I'm a very good messenger or maybe a very flawed and imperfect messenger to deliver this message, because what I will say that is, I used to, years ago, be somewhat, I wouldn't say I was socially conservative, but maybe I was perceived to be socially conservative on some issues, and maybe even took up some of the arguments of the right on some of those issues, even while I considered myself more or less a right-of-center libertarian on social issues, or a lot of them. But I've definitely evolved where I'm much more firmly socially libertarian on so-called social issues, culture war issues, and that kind of thing. I believe that individuals should be able to run their own lives and not have their own views and personal life choices be dictated by a government or others. On economic issues, I have evolved from the days when I used to be, because I had become convinced, misled, I'll explain this on other videos, I had become misled that a more economically conservative kind of pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality was a better way that would benefit most people, but I was totally wrong in that. Come to realize that economic conservatism, bootstraps conservatism as I'll call it, really benefits not most people, but benefits the top 1%, millionaires and billionaires, the ultra wealthy, and so on. And I've moved much more in the direction of becoming more economic populist, that we need to build an economy that works for most people, and the way to do that is not unfettered free market capitalism, which will only benefit the top 1% in reality and practice, but at minimum a system of a mixed economy where the private sector in some areas provides better services and products, and in many areas the public sector does a better job of doing things. So my views have become much more economically populist, where I favor more of a mixed economy, leaning towards what some, like Karl Kalinske, refers to the term social democracy. My views are very much consistent with that, even in some instances moving more towards what people like AOC or Zoran Mamdani refer to as democratic socialism. Now, another word, the S word, socialism, is very controversial. We'll talk on this channel about how the far right demonizes that word and says it's, makes it sound like, well, if we go to a socialist system, we're one step away from a communist dictatorship, and that's completely not true. And I don't consider myself a capital S socialist by any means, but some of the more progressive, economically populist policies that some would refer to as social democracy, or democratic socialism is a term that some on the left like to use, are more in line with what I currently believe in as opposed to what I used to believe in. So this is what kinds of issues and discussions and views and policies I will be discussing on this channel in the coming weeks, months, and years. And I hope that by doing this, those who watch these videos can think about, because I want to communicate ideas about how the direction our country is going in politically right now is definitely not what I think is the right direction. and I want to communicate ideas and views about, and try to get people thinking about issues on how we can move toward a better future for most of us, and what kinds of politicians we should vote for, what kinds of policies we should favor, what kinds of things should be done in the future that would lead us more in that direction. So that is a statement about what this channel is about. If this interests you, then I urge you to subscribe to the channel, watch the videos, ring the bell, do all that YouTube stuff, so that every time I put out content, you will you'll be informed that those videos are out and be able to watch it. And I hope that many of you will join me in this journey to discuss and pursue these ideas. And I thank you for watching this video, and thank you for your interest in this channel.